and welcome to my Monday forecast. So let's get started with looking at what has happened in the markets. So let's get started with the euro and the US dollar. What we had right here, we had this big impulse to the downside. Then we had this bomb opportunity right at this candle. So this was the first high, first low, second high, and then this was the first bearish candle. This would be the entry point, but I didn't enter it because I know that on a Monday we usually get a range bound market, so we usually get more of a range between the low and the high, something like this. And I know that bombs that form in Monday morning are not that high probability, so this one didn't fit my plan. And this was actually a nice trade because we had this ascending structure and a large impulse to downside, but as I said, bombs that form on the Monday morning are not high probability for me personally. So there is also a bullet opportunity forming right at this point, but I will stay out of that trade because I know that it will be a larger bullet, so it will need to cross a large distance, and because it's a Monday it doesn't really fit my plan. So I will stay out and I will wait for the market to either break the low, so break the low or the high. And what I can forecast is that we will get more of this ranging price action, so something like this. And I know that the euro really likes to range for a long time, so what I then need to keep in mind is if we do get a larger range, is that there are actually liquidity areas, so below, right here, and above. And it is very important what happens when the price reaches those liquidity areas. So maybe we just push into them and retrace, then this is a bad sign, and then this tends to range for some more time. Or maybe we get a nice big push, and then we get a continuation pattern, so then that will be high probability and much better price action for me to look for trades. So yeah, it is really important what happens if we do get a range right here, and if we then break the low or the high and just retrace. What can also happen is we can continue to downside with a nice large impulse, then I would look for a short trade. Or we can get a large impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a bullet short trade, and this would be also very high probability. And we are now seeing a trend. We're seeing a large impulse, pullback, large impulse, pullback, another impulse. So that is why I classified that as a high probability trade. Also, we can get a descending structure from here, and then we push to the upside, look for a long trade. Same thing to the upside, so I would like to see a nice large impulse and look for a long trade. Also, I would like to see a nice impulse, pullback, another impulse, look for a bullet long trade. Also, we can get an ascending structure and then push to downside, look for a short trade. And I know that if we do get a larger range, so something like this, and then let's say an ascending that breaks the high, then drops to the downside, this is very high probability because, as I said, there are liquidity areas above. And if I see that we retrace into those liquidity areas, I know that the stops are being taken. So right here the stops are being taken, and market makers are most likely to push the price to the downside. And if we get that evidence of a push to the downside, then I am looking for short trades. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. So yeah, currently waiting for the break of the low or the high on the euro. Now moving on to the euro and the Japanese yen. So what we had the nice drop to the downside, nice large impulse, but then at the end of the impulse we got a huge wick and an aggressive retrace. And I know that this is a common pattern on the euro and the Japanese yen. So we get a impulse, then large wick, and then we get an aggressive pullback and then shoot to the upside. So this was expected to me, and we did get this also V reversal. Also, what is a common pattern is that we get a V reversal, then a small range, and then price pushes in the direction of the second leg. Then I'm looking for long trades. So if I see that we form a range here and then push to the upside, I know that it's a very high probability that we will get another push to the upside. So I'm looking for a long trade, but I need to see the evidence. I need to see the range and I need to see the impulse to the upside. Also, what can happen, we can just stay ranging right here, because Monday and Tuesdays are predominantly range bound. That is one of the possibilities. Also, we can shoot to the upside straight from here and then get an opportunity to enter, so get a flag, or we can get a push, pull back, another push, a bullet trade. A bullet trade is to me just a break and retrace to the most recent high. So really simple. Also, we can just continue with this structure, so continue ascending, push to the downside, look for a short trade, because we are starting to ascend. So we had this impulse, but then it started to break the high retrace, so it did start to ascend, and we can get more of an ascending. Also, we can get a push to the downside, look for a trade, if it's a large impulse, of course. We can get a push to the downside, pull back, another impulse, look for a short trade. This would be very high probability to me, because we are now seeing an established trend. And we can get a descending from here. When I see this, I then need to see a nice large impulse to the upside, because I know that if we get an ascending into a descending structure, it is most likely that we will continue just ranging like this and get another ascending into a descending and get this larger range. So that is definitely something I want to avoid, because I am a trend trader, so I'm looking for a large impulse to the upside or to the downside. So yeah, currently not really showing me any momentum either to the upside or to the downside, and I need to see either, as I said, a range and then continuation of the second leg, or I need to see a nice big impulse to the downside or a big impulse to the upside. So that is it for the for Euro and the Japanese yen. Now let's take a look at the Aussie pairs. So for the Aussie and the US dollar, I actually was looking for a trade opportunity at this point. So here the market opened, and then we got this push right here, and I was looking for a short trade, but we didn't actually get a nice close. So to me, this was not enough of a close to be looking for a short opportunity. I was looking for more of a push to the downside, so I actually stayed out of this price action. And it is a good thing that I stayed out, because I would get stopped out. And currently, so we broke the high, retraced, so we are forming this ascending structure. And what can happen, we can get a drop to the downside, look for a trade, or we can get the impulse to the upside, look for a flag. We can also get an impulse, pull back, another impulse, look for a long trade, and this would be a very high probability according to my trade plan. Also, we can just stay ranging at this area, get something like this, so a descending into an ascending structure. And I know that if we do get a descending into an ascending, so then there are liquidity areas above. So right here is a liquidity area, and below is a liquidity area. So I need to be very careful what happens when we reach those liquidity areas. Do we just break and retrace, or do we get a nice big impulse and then a flag? So that is definitely something to keep in mind. What can also happen, we can just drop to the downside from this point and then get a flag opportunity, or we can push to the downside, get a pullback, and then get another impulse to the downside, look for a break and a retrace, a break and a retest. So that is what I call a bullet trade. That is just a break and the retest of the most recent low. So yeah, those are some of the possibilities. We can also get a larger descending, and if it's clean price action, I would look for an impulse to the upside and a long trade. But currently this is just signaling to me ranging price action, and I know that on Monday and Tuesdays they are mostly predominantly range bound, so I need to be more careful, and I need to see a large impulse either to the upside or to the downside. And now let's move on to the final pair, so to the Aussie and the Japanese yen. And this is very similar to the Aussie US dollar. We had the push to the downside, got a large wick, aggressive retrace, broke the low again, retraced, signaling to me that the price is not, so the price is exhausted and not willing to continue to the downside. We then got break of the high retrace, break of the high retrace. So we are getting this ascending structure. And what I can forecast is that we will actually get more of range bound price action, because I do see this regularly on the Aussie pairs. So we get an impulse, then we break the low retrace, and we get an ascending structure into a descending. So we just stay ranging in this area. But that is not guaranteed that it will happen. We can get more of an ascending here. And if it's a clean ascending, I would look for a drop to the downside, look for a short trade. Or we can get a nice large push to the upside, look for a long trade. Also, what I would like to see in order to look for trades is a push pullback, another push, look for a retest. Same thing to downside, so I would like to see a nice big push to downside, look for a short trade. I would like to see a nice big push, pullback, another push, look for a break and a retest, so a bullet trade. Also, what can happen, we can get a nice clean descending structure, look for an impulse to the upside, look for a long trade. But the most high probability thing that will happen, in my opinion, is that we will just continue ranging in this area. So I need to be more patient, I need to look for high probability setups, and I need to look for momentum either to the upside or to the downside. So yeah, that is it for the forecast. Those are the 4 pairs. Currently it is only Monday, so I am expecting more range bound price action, and I'm just sitting on my hands.